he's telling me, yeah, we're taking sponsors. What kind of plan do you guys want? Like if they wanted to advertise on your website and they pay you money. That's what I always tell them. Like, are you looking to advertise? Like, yeah, we're taking advertisers. Yeah.
What a change.
Um, right out of school, I knocked doors. I sold alarm systems door to door. Um, I studied education. I was going to become a high school physics teacher, and I knew that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to stay in the classroom, and I needed to get experience talking with people. So I signed up with this company, and for 2 years, I traveled the country and knocked doors. And it was
You learned a lot.
learned a lot. It was 100% commission, so if you didn't make the sale, you didn't get to eat.
Yeah.
And it taught me.
So your aunt, does she have a developmental disability?
She does.
She does?
So she is severely disabled. She has cerebral palsy. She's nonverbal, and all the doctors in her medical history say that she functions at a 3-year-old level. She's 54 years old. One of the things that we're struggling with right now is her mobility. It's very important for her to stay mobile, and she has a lot of difficulty there. So how do we, so we introduced going to the Lakeshore Pool in Birmingham twice a week. And,
that's good, yeah.
But we do struggle with that.
And, is she a wheelchair user? She's a...
Crutches sometimes, but she really needs assistance.
Yeah.
Almost all the
time. Yes, I was going to say, I don't know. My son-in-law works at Lakeshore. It's a great place. It is awesome. He gets to take advantage of a lot of the Olympic teams come there practice, in the pool, and they do wheelchair basketball, and it is just, it's awesome. He gets to, enjoy just seeing that, because we've had disability in our family forever, so it's a sort of an extension of that, I just spit on my stick.
And it's still in place.
Yeah. Uh-oh. The internet just cut out.
That's my internet.
Oh. Now, what are y'all doing staying in here? I'm only kidding, because I just had Rick for a few hours. No, the best thing is to move back and go. That's right. That's right.
The water girl on the.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the background.
Picking her teeth, and she's like, she's just eating dinner, I think. I couldn't decide what she. Yeah. I was laughing too, wondering what in the world was she reading, but anyway, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm sure it was the talk today. Yeah, I know it can. I'm sure you do. You might even have some of those right there.
And then if you guys were the same thing as last time, if there seems to be like the channel shuts down or something, this time I'm going to take a break and make sure everything's back up and running. I didn't do a great job of that last time, and I want to get that up.
Well, I wasn't sure because I didn't want to interrupt anything.
I think you did a great job in split. Yeah, exactly. That would be perfect.
You seen that? You seen that commercial? was calling his parents. He goes, "It's a boy. It's a boy." And it's like, somebody goes, "Oh, that was what's his name? It was a boy. 8.2 ounces." It was so funny. Yeah, that's right. Then he called him back and said, anyway, something I don't remember what it was. You remember it much better than I do, but it is funny. You remember it much better than I do, but it is funny. I guess it's something. You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. I guess it's something.
We'll be all right. We're gonna be.
You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something.
We'll be all right. We're gonna be.
You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something.
We'll be all right. We're gonna be.
You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something.
We'll be all right. We're gonna be.
You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something.
We'll be all right. We're gonna be.
You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something. You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something. You remember it much better than I do, but it was. I know. Yeah, boy. I guess it's something.
Yep, that's definitely something that I hope to incorporate in the future.
All right.
Yeah, I'm thinking of other things, other questions.
Oh, it's just gonna be normal conversation. We'll be good.
Yeah, pretty casually, but I brought all these names.
Looking down at them.
Well, you never know. I was going to give him a little information. Of course, you probably already. No?
No, we're coming in blind.
Okay, good. I'll give you some information.
Okay, and if you would both, hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Yep, go ahead and both speak into those microphones.
Closely.
Closer, please.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6.
8, 9, 10.
Keep going, keep
7.
going.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay,
Oh, keep going.
we should be good there.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to turn mine down a little bit. They usually say 3 inches for every 3 feet, so the closer to the mic, the better.
Okay.
You use the position like a little bit closer to yourself.
Okay.
Turn this puppy off.
Hello, hello, hello.
Off the street.
Oh, you're
All
just
right.
you just happen to be at the right place at the right time every time.
I mean, like the commercial, something falls and then you have to pick it up and you have boxers on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, he doesn't have boxers on today.
You've seen that YouTube.
Hello, yes.
He drops the computer.
And he drops his laptop and he's like, oh my gosh. Okay. That's fine.
Okay, I'm going to switch over from Twitch to Facebook.
Twitch. What's Twitch?
Let me,
I don't know what
let's
that
make
is.
sure our phones are on silent.
Let me make sure.
What's Twitch?
I was about to say, what is Twitch? I know about Twitter.
Twitch is a Amazon company for broadcasting.
Uh-huh.
I've heard of it.
And I use it to double check like streams before I switch over to Facebook, because nobody knows my Twitch, so nobody watches it. So it's a good way for me to test it online.
Did you put a sign on the door that said recording or something? Because somebody might come in or something. Or quiet or something like that.
So, quick one. So, when we do intros, do I just, of course, say your name and
I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself, and then you just say your name, who you are, maybe your relationship to the ED community, and then I'll ask something like, are you originally from this area?
okay. Just want to know how to lead into that.
Be sure to say, or I'll say you serve on the FCC, because maybe we'll talk a little bit about what they do, and then you can
Okay.
talk a little bit about. I don't want to forget. This is some of these things I don't want to forget if you're going to
Okay.
leave it that way.
Okay.
Huh? She's going to do it good. Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'm just setting up.
Are you able to see this right here?
I am not. No.
Okay.
Just setting it up live on Facebook now. We are going to connect to the OBS. And we are going to say early intervention just as a quick header here, and then we're going to change it after the stream. And your last name is Horace, correct?
Correct.
I feel like that's a Greek goddess name.
Really?
Like Horace.
Well, the shoe fits.
Hey, I'll take it. Per my husband.
All right, let's get the stream key copied. And then we'll put it in to our settings over here. And we'll switch from Twitch to Facebook. And we'll put it there. Dun, 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 dun. And let me double check on my phone when they pop up. Okay, so when I hit this button, we are going to go live, so just don't hit your nose. We'll be out there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Or your teeth.
Okay, we are live there. Let me go to my phone and just double check to make sure that the audio is coming through. Oh, bad. Are you guys hearing that as well? Yeah. Right here. I wonder if I can turn down the settings here in OBS. All right, let me mute that. And let me get rid of that. Let's see if that has any effect on it. Let me give it a second for those settings to go into effect on the stream. That works? Cool. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody back today, Alabama Care. I am with BestyPrince and Horace. We are talking about early intervention services through ADRS today. So at this point, I'd just like to hand the conversation over and let you both introduce yourselves.
And I'm BestyPrince. I'm the director of Alabama's Early Intervention System.
Awesome. So thank you for having me here today. We're broadcasting out of Montgomery. And I would just want to ask, are you both originally from this area? Can you get that microphone a little bit closer to you? No, you're fine.
Well, I'm from Alabama. I grew up in Birmingham, and I moved here 30 years ago, and so I've been in Alabama my whole life.
So Montgomery's kind of home base now.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Be hard to go back now.
Yeah. I love Montgomery. It's only like an hour and a half away from Birmingham.
Yeah.
I really haven't got to explore the town yet, so I don't know really what it has to offer, but I like the layout. I feel like it has this old kind of feeling with the buildings. The architecture is really cool.
There are a lot of great things to see here. A lot of historical things and many activities and new things. It's always something new. Revitalization of downtown's been a big part.
I feel like that's happening in a lot of cities. Birmingham's going through that right now, where a lot of like local breweries, art districts are kind of popping
Same
up.
Here,
so
yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so let's just start off with what are early intervention services?
Well, let me give you just a little background about early intervention, sort of how it came about and what it was developed for and why it sits in the Department of Rehabilitation Services. ADRS is the lead agency for early intervention. Every state has a different lead agency, and it was determined here in Alabama that it would sit in the Department of Rehabilitation Services. So we have the responsibility to plan, organize, implement all the services, to oversee the system. It's a system of services. It's a system of agencies. It's a system that's put together to support families and infants and toddlers. So it started, it's been here for a long, long time. And the reason early intervention was started, it is actually part of IDEA, which I know most people know what that is, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's Part C of that law. And within that law, it was established because there was an urgent and substantial need for kids to get assistance. And so and the other reasons were it was created to keep families together, to reduce institutionalization early, and to provide the services and supports that families need so they don't have to seek out-of-home placement. And that was one of the major pieces of it. The other really critical piece, which has proven in many studies across the country to be true, is that investment early reduces the cost for special education services and supports down the road. So if we do a really good job really intervening with families and infants early, then what happens to them when they reach school and beyond is limitless. I mean, we're hoping to really implant in people potential that anything can happen no matter what your diagnosis or no matter what your disability. So that's really the reason early intervention was created, and we have taken it and begun to implement it here in Alabama.
So early intervention is funded through the education fund there, through IDEA?
Yes, we get federal dollars, and we also get some state dollars.
Okay. And then sits under ADRS here in Alabama. Now, our early intervention services, are they very similarly formatted in other states like that, where they will sit under the lead organization there?
Well, all the states have to abide by the federal regulations. So they're all created a little bit differently, but the bottom line of what the regulations say, all states have to abide by what those are. So it might look a little different, but the fundamental pieces of it, the foundational part of it, is the same. And I can talk a little bit about that.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, certainly the most foundational piece that's different from it comes from education law, but what is different is it's not child focused. It is family focused. And studies show that if you intervene with families, that families are the best teachers. They're going to actually be the ones that are going to be able to help a child succeed. So our system does deliver services to children, and certainly that's important, but really building the capacity of a family and strengthening them is what is going to make the difference. I mean, if you have a family that can't pay their power bill, has no transportation, lives in very rural Alabama, they are
That's not at the top of their priority.
No, that's right. And so for us, we have to address the family piece of it. So we do have a very strong foundation for that, and there's several other core values that we have related to that. Certainly, family training is one of the main ones we have. Services need to be individualized. We have to be collaborative. We've got to collaborate with other agencies. We recognize that we cannot meet the needs of every family and child, and that communities have to come together. That's why we're a system. Systems are all these different pieces, and we're responsible for bringing them together to best suit the family. We have to deliver services within a natural environment.
Now, what do you mean natural environment? What does that mean?
It means it's a place where a child would be if they did not have a disability. So where most babies, many babies are at home, or they're in child care, or there could be other settings. So we actually go there because we're trying to impact the capacity of those people that are in those settings to be able to help those children grow and learn and develop.
So that would be the difference between going to like a building where the services would be taught and coming really to the house.
Yes, yes, or to the house or to the. We have services that can take place anywhere within the routines of a family. What are the routines of a family? That's sort of how we decide where those will be delivered. The other piece, it has to be routines based. I just mentioned that. It has to be based on what the routines of the family are. It has to be based on evidence-based practice. It has to be based on a collection of knowledge, of data, of information that is proven to be effective for the good outcomes for children and families. And so those are sort of the tenets of what we build the whole system on. If we ever question it, we sort of go back to the core values, the core values to be sure are we doing that. I probably missed one if somebody's counting, but I'm trying.
Well, I wanted to ask Mrs. Horace, so you are kind of on the receiving end of some of those things. If you would like to speak a little bit about your experience there.
Okay. So my daughter was introduced to I did a lot of research when she was first born. When I first saw her, I knew that she had my husband knew, and so we wanted to create an environment for her where she could grow by leaps and bounds. And so I did a lot of research online and came across her intervention. So I gave them a call, and of course, within the next 2 weeks, I had a coordinator at my house.
Really, that's a quick turnaround. 2 weeks from call to location.
She was so into Megan and with our family and working together to make sure that Megan was able to meet those milestones that other children were making. And so the entire staff of early intervention, all the way down from her speech therapist, occupational therapist, they were willing to meet us where we were as a family. And they would pay attention to the concerns that we had and the questions that we had. Of course, we didn't know anything in the beginning. So we had many, many questions. Like, would she meet the milestone as far as walking at 8 months or 9 months or 10 months? Would she be able to roll over? What do we need to do as parents to help with that? And of course, they would sit down with us and patiently discuss these things with us and what we needed to do at home with Megan when they were not on site. But everything was seamless.
I like that word you
They
use,
were
seamless.
it was seamless. It was
That's
seamless
good to hear.
process. And, they work with our schedule. They even they even went to Megan's daycare and did her physical therapy and her occupational therapy. And there were other little kids that would get involved to help, and they were really interested in what they were doing. So it motivated Megan to even try harder because other kids were getting involved and saying, I want to do it too.
Mhm.
So, it was just one of those situations where we as parents were confident in the early intervention program and the system, and those individuals that were working with early intervention. So we were pleased.
I'd really like to applaud you. I feel like a lot of people, when they don't know something, they become overwhelmed and kind of shrink in instead of reaching out. And
Right.
it takes a great person to do that, to reach out. And so I really want to applaud you for doing that. Making that contact.
Thank you.
Now, you said in the first few months, 6 months there, you did a lot of research online. Tell me how that went.
Of course, your best
And also, worst
Google knows
enemy.
everything.
If my finger hurts, my leg's falling off or
That's right.
something.
Exactly, Google. And that's why I research. I try to find out what we need to do as parents, what services, because I knew going forward, and so that being said, as I mentioned, we reached out.
Now, how did you come into contact with early intervention originally? Did you find them through
Actually, I
Google?
found them through Google.
Did you?
I did. I found them through Google. I called them up. A live person picked up. But a live person picked up. I explained my situation, and okay, well, your daughter is eligible for these services now. Really? And we'll have a coordinator get out to you. They will call you to schedule a time they can come out. Of course, that was a 2-week turnaround. And at that point, we start making plans for the future. I will say, as a parent, when we first got that diagnosis, of course, you have all these dreams and aspirations and expectations for your children. And so, when those things, when you feel like those things are kind of shaken by a diagnosis, you become scared. You get frustrated. You have that 5-minute pity party, and then you get into the driver's seat and you realize we got to keep going. And that's what took place at my house. And so at that point, we were doing everything we could to make sure that Megan had what she needed. We were doing what we needed to do and kind of moving forward.
It's not on.
They're saying they can't.
Oh, can't hear you.
Can you repeat all that?
Yeah.
Sure.
So we're going to take a quick break here. We're having a little difficulty in Mrs. Horace's microphone, so we're just going to work through that there. If you guys are in the chat, I do not see the chat when we're speaking, but if you could write something there, we have some great people with us in the room here that are kind of monitoring the chat. So if you guys have any difficulty in hearing or seeing anything, please write that in there. And I am going to see, okay, so Mrs. Horace, if you could just, do you have a favorite song you'd like to sing? I'm going to put you on the spot, American Idol right now. No, I'll switch mics with you. I'll just kind of talk.
Not quite.
So I'll bring the mic a little bit closer here. See what we can see coming through on Facebook. Okay, so we have a couple people in chat saying that they cannot hear Mrs. Horace. Can hear Betsy. Hello, hello, hello.
No, I don't think it was off. I think it was just one.
Hello, hello, hello. And it looks like we do have a little difficulty there. Let's try a different port and go to 4. Hello, hello, hello. Go to 4. Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me through this microphone? Let's try that. Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me through this microphone?
That sounds louder.
Okay, that should be a little bit better. Thank you for that update. Let's see if that comes through. My grandfather had a quote that I really liked, but kind of hit on the head there. He said that your son or daughter can have a happy life, but all the expectations that you have of them bringing home grandchildren and all this stuff is not going to happen. Is it you that is causing part of your own problem? And every situation is different based on the abilities there. But it was kind of his, for his daughter, he had expectations when she was born, and kind of going through there.
But I do think early intervention can continue to give you great expectations. I had a son that had very significant disabilities. He was nonverbal, non-ambulatory. He had many conditions, and he had a great life. He far exceeded what was written on paper about him or what people said. And so our job in early intervention is to help lift those expectations for families so that they think anything is possible, because it is. Today, it is possible. And so I was going to respond to Yada's story because I'm sorry it was 6 months. Because as a child that was diagnosed, we should have had that baby the day that baby was born. And so there was, there was something missing. It was either from where the baby was born or the physician that we didn't get that referral, because a lot of those children that have diagnoses we do get early.
About the diagnosis there, who is the one to diagnose maybe a delay? Is it their normal doctor and primary doctor there, or how does that
let
work?
me explain a little bit about how you qualify first.
Yeah.
You qualify by having a diagnosis that's likely to lead to delay. So that would cover Down syndrome, like Megan has. It could be spina bifida. It could be cerebral palsy. It could be any condition that's likely to be a delay down the line. And we have hundreds. Every day we're adding new diagnoses to our list. We have over 280 diagnoses now. The other thing that qualifies you is a 25% delay in any developmental area. So that's one of the broadest in the country. It's one of the broadest categories in the country. And so a child that has a 25% delay in speech is going to be referred, and then we do the evaluation to confirm whether or not they have the 25% delay. Anybody can make a referral. Most of our referrals are from physicians and parents. Parents make their own referrals. They've heard from somebody else, or so then we do the evaluation to determine whether the child is eligible.
What does that evaluation look like?
Well, in early intervention, you have to have two different evaluation tools administered by two different disciplines. So a developmental specialist and a speech pathologist might do the evaluation. It has to be confirmed on two tools. And then we have an approved list of tools that people are required to use. We have over 50 programs around the state. So we have qualified professionals in those programs that do evaluations for us and then make that determination. If they're making a diagnosis of Down syndrome or something like that, that's going to come from the physician or from a clinic or somebody that specializes within that particular disability.
So the medical diagnosis does come from the medical professional, but the delay would come from early intervention services.
Yes.
So what did that look like when you first contacted early intervention services? You had that diagnosis from the doctor, and then when you called in and you spoke to somebody live, they asked a bunch of questions to better know you and the family. And
We did. So I know one of the questions was, what do you think your child's diagnosis is? Of course, they asked, are there any expectations that you have for your child? And of course, I gave them this long laundry list of expectations. Of course, I wanted Megan to walk on time. I wanted Megan to do everything. I had a little girl. I wanted her to love princesses, which at the age of 8, she truly loves princesses. Every day you want every dream house. But I mean, those are things in your mind when your child is a baby. Those are things that you dream of. And of course, with early intervention, they actually gave me that dream back. Whereas it kind of looked a little shady at first, but they gave me that dream back. And they also reaffirmed every visit that there's nothing that you cannot do. They made sure of that. And so I truly remember one situation where, my son wanted to go to the park. And of course, it was on Megan's day to have physical therapy. And I said, well, we can't go to the park today because Megan has physical therapy. So her physical therapist called me that morning, and I said, well, my son wanted to go to the park, but we have Megan. She said, no, we can meet in the park. I mean, it's meeting the need of the family, going above and beyond. So my son was able to go to the park. Megan was able to do her physical therapy at the park, which she enjoyed. And so it's those little things
that make a
huge difference
yeah.
in the life, of your child. Because you definitely want your one child to feel that their needs are not being met.
That's a great example of plugging into the routines of what your routine is as a family and how important that is to keep that together and keep it going. And so that's really great to hear.
It is.
But there's still a little bit of mic there, so we're just going to switch. But I can hear it very clear through here. Go ahead and speak into that again. Testing, testing. So a little bit closer. Maybe we'll try that.
Testing.
That's perfect. I think that's a huge thing where instead of like, hey, we have to totally change our schedule around being able to fit in with the family. And I didn't realize it was so family focused coming in here. I thought early intervention services would be like OT, PT, going into like a lakeshore type of environment. But if you would speak on some of the things that you found are really focused on you and the family.
Okay. So, there were many times when her physical therapist would come into our home, and we were working on the rolling over concept. And, the therapist was saying, if you work with your child, and your child will mimic you. And so, of course, I'm on the floor with Megan, rolling around, and Megan's looking at me like, what are you doing? And the therapist's like, well, just keep doing it, and she'll do it. And so it was that one day we had that major breakthrough where she rolled over when I was rolling over with her. And so it's situations like that where they incorporate the parents to do these things with your children because your children will mimic you at a very early age. And even with the speech therapist, she was like, I know this might seem crazy, but let's do the little mouth motions with her and the making the sounds. And, so we were doing those things. It's incorporating the family to teach your child.
Yeah, it sounds like training, a lot of training for the family.
That's one of my family.
Right, you're really teaching the family what needs to be done outside of having a therapist.
Now, have you found yourself kind of teaching other families that have questions since you?
My biggest thing with families is, stay encouraged. There is nothing your child cannot do. You just have to be motivated as a parent. Do your research and have a really good family structure and environment for
I think the importance of the therapy is to help train the families because an hour of therapy, direct therapy, is not going to change the trajectory for a child. It's going to be what happens the other 23 hours. Are you supported? Are you validated? Do you have what you need in order to help you live a good life with your child? Those are the things that we should be concerned about. So it's great to hear that, those are the kinds of interventions that you have gotten because that 1 hour is not magic. And what happens in the other hours of what you've learned and how you deal with it is so critically important.
It's almost like being a life coach, I feel like.
Yeah, it is encouragement. And I think encouragement from other families that link together is really important. And we also try to do that as well.
Now, have you met other families that are going through the same thing?
who have children with Down syndrome. And they're older, younger. I really kind of like talking with parents who have children who are older, just to see what the future looks like.
Yeah.
Like I said, Megan vibrant, sassy. And so, how do you handle this? Little boys, and I don't know what you do about that. But it's really good to talk to other parents
Every little girl is sassy,
every little girl is
no matter what.
right. So it's good to talk with other parents. It's good to talk to people who know how to be. So, you know, encourage and inspire them. And to let them know about
Yeah.
That's great.
Do you have any questions, or like, what is one big question that you're working on now for Megan?
wow. I mean, Megan is going to be going to third grade next year. Or, yeah, next year. And so we're really looking at, you know, what other milestones she needs to make. I know her teacher contacted me on last week and said, you know, we're really excited. We're jumping up and down in the classroom. Megan counted all the way to 50 by herself.
Wow,
Nice.
I said, that is a milestone.
that's great.
So, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, we're looking at the next step.
Hmm.
You know, where do we go from here? And what other dreams can we add to what we already have?
Our challenges in early intervention are to help families transition from us, which by the time a child turns 3 on their 3rd birthday, they're going to leave us and go on to something else. And many of those children, like Megan, are going to need services within the school system. And so our job is to help those families transition to school or to home or wherever they're going to be. So because of our eligibility is different from the school system. And so because of that, just because you're eligible for early intervention doesn't mean you will qualify for special education services. So that's a challenge for families when they've been supported in early intervention and they feel like they still need some support. But we have a really great relationship with our local school systems and the State Department of Ed and have some really great procedures and um, networking going on in local communities that are making that easier for families.
What would be an example where somebody would receive early intervention services but not be able to receive special education services in the school system?
A child could, well, because you qualify by diagnosis, that's not how it's determined within the school system. So a child might have a 25% delay, and in the school system, you might need a 30% delay. So the delay is an issue. And the diagnosis is we'll serve by diagnosis when a school system serves related to educational progress.
And that's got to be very frustrating for families. You're talking about 5 percentage points there. Like, what is that? I feel like that could go one way or another very easily.
Well, it's more stringent than that in the Part B program in the school system.
Mm.
So ours, as I said, is very broad. Theirs is much narrower than ours, so it is difficult. But one of the things that we're required to do within transition is if it's to school, we make the linkage with the local school system. But if it's not, we help them locate maybe services within their own community that they can access there. We have a strong partnership with Help Me Grow, which is an organization that provides resources. It's through the 211 call system. So every child that is ineligible for us or who is transitioning out of early intervention, we ask the families if they'd like to be connected to Help Me Grow. That's a pretty new partnership. And so they have a way to follow up. They do surveillance, developmental surveillance, and they follow up on kids' development. So if they do need to be referred at some time to the school system, and they think they're going to qualify, they can link them to other services as well.
Gotcha. I had a question. Why 3 years old? Why does it cut off at 3? Is there some developmental stuff there where it's like 3 is done? Why stop at 3?
Well, 85% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 3.
Okay.
And what a great window of opportunity that we have. And there is capacity within the regulations to serve 0 to 5, but there are not enough resources to serve the children we have birth to 3. And so there are 2 states in the entire country that have even moved to serving 0 to 5 to make it more of a seamless transition. So 3 is the magic age just because they are the most important years of a child's development in life.
You said 85% of the brain is developing during that time.
And if we don't intervene then, we're going to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do those interventions later and have the same impact.
Now, are you seeing some of the things that you and Megan have gone through in early intervention services and how those have paid off here after that? If you could speak a little bit about that.
Well, I know a lot of the speech training. Of course, that's one of the biggest things. You can really tell the difference that she started at a very young age working with the speech therapist.
We're gonna try the mic again. Go ahead and just get as close to you as possible.
I mean, I can let her use mine.
But let's try this one.
Okay.
Go ahead and just bring that as close to you.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead again.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's try that.
As I mentioned, I think the speech therapy that Megan received has really paid off because now you can hear and understand her much clearer than if she did not receive those services at a very young age. I think the biggest thing, I don't know if they still do this with the little bear cup, the little straw. Well, yes, her speech therapist asked us to get this little cup for her to suck on so that she could learn how to suck on a straw.
Mm.
I mean, it was just the little things that, the little concepts that they used that helped Megan along the way. I know with, as far as her physical therapist went, as far as allowing her to play on the playground and doing those steps, where now her range of mobility is so much better.
Mm.
She runs, she jumps, she plays. She's just now learning how to ride her bike, which is a big girl bike for Megan. So all of these things have tied into Megan's growth process at the age of 8. Just the little things, as I mentioned. The little, I know her physical therapist, I used to call her Jane Fonda. She would have Megan just all on the floor working out, doing the little leg movements. But all of that paid off and, really gave her this, where she could do anything. She could run, she could jump, she could play. And doing all these things have really paid off for me.
Yeah, it's like if she didn't hit those milestones when she did,
Right.
the growth would be stunted further along. So even playing on the playground has allowed her to ride the bike at age 8, and
Exactly.
and that would have been in sucking on that what do you say, teddy bear lollipop?
It was a teddy bear, yeah, this little teddy bear cup where it had this plastic straw in it. And of course, she said if you allow her to do that, of course, her tongue wouldn't stick out as much. Of course, we don't have that problem now. So these little concepts have really helped Megan along. And so she's a big talker now.
That's awesome.
The speech therapist probably still uses that.
I'm
too.
sure.
Okay. We did go over that. I'd like you to, Mrs. Horace, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the transition out of early intervention services and how that went for you and for the family.
Wow. We were afraid.
Yeah.
Because we had gotten so used to this family concept with the therapist. Because they said the same therapist from 6 months to 3 years old. So we were like, oh my gosh, are we going to get this nice therapist when we transition? And of course, Megan was, we had moved to Ottawa County at the time. As soon as she transitioned out, because of course we had heard their program was as good as early intervention. So of course we moved, and it was. She had really great therapists there. They came to our preschool and worked with her. We
Now,
picked up where we left off.
yeah, I was going to ask, did they were informed of all the information, all
Yes.
of what had been happening, the data sheets, the plans?
Right. It was her coordinator with early intervention made it truly once again a seamless process to the school age group in Ottawa County. They received all of our information, so we didn't have to do the whole catch up and reintroducing. So everything was given to them, and we kind of just picked up, and Megan kind of kept going on that learning track.
We're required at 27 months to prepare families. We try to start talking about it the minute they enter because it's only, that window of opportunity goes so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But we're required to have a meeting with the school system and to begin that transition process for families. So it'll make it a little bit easier. So the school system's requirement is to have their individualized education plan in place at the 3rd birthday.
Oh, really?
So it would have to be, that would make it seamless if that plan was in place by then. So that's our goal. And I want to say maybe 99% of our children have, maybe 98%, but it's a very high, we worked on it over the years, a very high percentage have that IEP in place on the 3rd birthday.
I will say Megan had hers in place.
That's great. Yeah, that's good to know.
And then how did the transition go after 5 into, I guess, first grade,
She was
kindergarten,
in
pre-K?
Yeah. So she was accepted into the pre-K program in County. Another learning process, and we've been blessed with really, really good teachers. She's been blessed with a really good aide. So everything kind of went. We've never missed a beat
Hmm.
with Megan. I mean, it's like everything just kind of meshes in place with Megan. And as far as her educational staff, so we've just gone from early intervention to school age, to going to third grade, and so now everything's just been seamless. Um, like I said, the transition from early intervention to school age was great. I mean, we're moving on up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so Megan is 8 years old, but you still, it sounds like you have a great relationship with early intervention.
Yada serves on our Governor's Interagency Coordinating Council, which is made up of professionals, programs, state agencies, and families. And Yada serves as one of our parent representatives. So she is at the meetings to help give us input and guidance and help us as we move forward in the system.
Kind of giving back to.
Yeah,
Everything they gave me, exactly. So I told Bessie, even when my time runs out as a parent, I'll still be there. You can't get rid of me.
It's great to hear. It's encouraging to hear, and I hope some of our service providers are listening, because it's encouraging to hear these kind of stories where it's just gone really well, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but that we prepared her to as she's moved forward. That's great.
Can't be the equipment then. That's okay. Quiet as a mouse on the mic.
Oh, really?
Golly.
We kind of overwhelming.
I'm sure my husband would
No, I think they're missing that. You can have mine.
I don't think it's the microphone, but it's okay.
Okay.
The diaphragm.
Use your outside voice. You're making outside. You're making outside voice.
How many children does early intervention currently serve in the state of Alabama?
We're serving about 7,500 children. We've grown tremendously over the last 5 years in the number of children we've served, but our funding has remained pretty stagnant. So we're in the process of trying to request some additional dollars within this next fiscal year in the legislative session. But I think it's lots of reasons. There are lots of we've been working with many other agencies and organizations related to standardizing developmental screens within pediatricians' offices, and also there are many more babies that are being born that have through the technology are being kept alive, and so we're having a lot more of those babies. And certainly we have drug exposed babies. We have a lot of babies that have come in the system that we have not always had. So our numbers are absolutely multiplying. Certainly autism and its increase over the past 5 years as well, and we're doing some work on that. So there are a lot of differences that have happened in the last 5 years that have caused our numbers to grow.
And those differences being just kind of what you said there, but that's a big spike.
Better developmental screenings that are identifying children that have red flags or have an issue that or if a family that just says, we encourage people, if you have any concern about development, call early intervention.
That brings up a good question. What are some things that you would want as a parent to look out for as milestones there?
Well, we do give families milestones, and I know many pediatricians give that as well. But it could be anything that's of concern or alert to a family, because families and parents know their children better than anybody, and we as a system value that, and they're the best teachers and they're the best informants related to a child's development. No matter what the paper says, we want to listen to what families are telling us about their children's development.
So 7,500 kids here in the state of Alabama, and you guys haven't had any increase in funding, and you've gone up. How big of a spike was that 5 years ago that you guys saw? Was it an additional 1,000, 2,000 kids?
It's probably been an additional 1,500 to 2,000 kids.
That's a lot of additional casework to bring on there.
A lot of kids.
What kind of things are you saying to the legislature? How does that work?
Well, I mean, I think we're reinforcing the fact that you do your intervention early and you don't pay later. I think if you look at this, if you just look at our state as a whole, to be able to focus on early childhood and early learning and the importance of that, then you're going to see a difference everywhere. Prison populations, special education costs, families falling apart. We're going to be able to help make those things better, but we've got to also have adequate funding in that area in order to do that. So, and also I think doing specialized services for kids who have specialized kinds of needs, like these children with autism, or we've done a lot of work in the last year for children that are deaf and hard of hearing, and we listened to families and tried to make some new some changes to offer some specialized services for those. So right now we're working on the autism piece because we know that those numbers are increasing as well. So a lot of those things are in place, and we've been working on them.
It seems like a no-brainer if you were a legislator to say, hey, if we're going to spend this money now, just financially, we're going to, save some money in the future because that person's not going to need as much support because, they've been working on it from a very early age. So why doesn't it happen? Just like, yeah, it makes total sense.
Well, I always say, ADRS and early intervention are the best kept secrets around. And the way you find out about them is you experience them. You either have a child that has a disability, or you have a need yourself, or you have, somewhere in your life you're going to experience disability, and our agency is here for you. We're just one piece of the big continuum. And of course, I laugh and I always say we're the most important piece, because if we do it right and we raise your expectations, and you have that thought that you can accomplish anything, and then we have the services and supports here to help you, there's nothing that anybody can't do at all. So we have an awesome responsibility. I think legislators many times don't know, and it's our responsibility as an agency, as families, to share why it is so critical. Because when we're talking about disabilities here, we're not talking about a child who can't pick up a pen. I mean, we're talking about sometimes kids who have very significant delays in needs, and families who are impacted by that. And if they don't have the equipment, they don't have the services, they don't have the support, they are not going to make it. So we're about survival.
Yeah, they're gonna piggyback off what you were saying. It's also the responsibility of the parents out there to make contact with their legislators, to even go to the Capitol and to speak on these topics. Because it's our children, and even though Megan has aged out of early intervention, I still see the effects of early intervention in her life. So these are things, these are programs that we have to keep going, and to also, as parents, we have to advocate for our children and for other children that are not aged out of early intervention.
We have a lot of our 50 programs are reaching out to their families and their local communities, because the best thing is to contact your legislator that lives in your area, that knows you, that who you vote for. That is the most critical piece. So we're encouraging people back in their own local communities to really reach out and share their stories and how important it is to hear those.
Yeah. And we're broadcasting a legislative boot camp tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
Through the Alabama Service Providers Association.
We've had some people that have gone to that and said it was terrific.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
so I'm a member of the organization through the microboard, but I'm excited to learn
That's
more
great.
about the legislative process. And because I still have questions like, well, okay, so if early intervention had contacted me as a parent and asked me to reach out to the legislator, I've never spoken with a legislator before. That's kind of a daunting task. What would I say?
Well, every child and family that come into early intervention get a service coordinator. The service coordinator is one of the most important pieces in the system, because they're the ones that hold the plan. They're the ones that know the community. They're the ones that are responsible that the services are being provided, and they are also taking on the responsibility of sharing. How do you make contact? Let me help you write a letter. Let me go with you. Come go with me and let's visit. Right. So we're encouraging in our whole department partnerships with our people and service providers and families and consumers. So that's the voice that we want to bring forth.
And I feel like you hit it on the head there, is they have to experience it in some way for it to make a lasting impression. Right. So, however that looks, is allowing them to go to a weekend camp like Full Life Ahead does. And I'm really surprised. I don't know if they've had legislators there before, but I think that would be a great thing. I don't know if they have or not.
Yeah, well, we have 7 early intervention district councils within our 7 districts in ADRS, and they have meetings either quarterly or monthly. It varies from region to region, but they're trying to, share information with legislators or have them go to a house with them to serve a child, and they're doing some local things which are really great. Yeah, our arts and UCPs, we have tons of local providers that are doing really great work.
Now, you did speak a little bit about the different districts and what have you. Now, you guys are throughout the entire state, so even if somebody is in a very rural, an hour and a half away from any major city,
For sure.
they can still receive services in the home or in the natural environment.
We serve in all 67 counties, and then we have providers that go into each one of those counties, no matter where it is.
I have a question about the providers there. So are the providers contracted through early intervention?
When the dollars come to early intervention, both state and federal dollars, they go to the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind, they go to the Alabama Department of Mental Health, and they stay here within our agency, and we contract with programs. And then they, in turn, contract with local programs, like I mentioned before, like a UCP, like an ARC, like a local agency. And then if they take a child, one of the early intervention children, they are required to deliver any of the 17 services that we are mandated to have.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't usually happen that way because 17 services, but the top services, they are responsible for being able to deliver those services for those children within the counties that they've designated to serve.
Mm-hmm. So my aunt, she goes to United Ability in Birmingham.
Right.
I love United Ability. They were UCP, now UA. And she does speech therapy once a week there continually. I don't see a lot of younger kids there, though. Maybe it's just the timing that I'm there.
United Ability is one of our largest providers. In fact, they are the largest provider in Alabama for early intervention. And the reason you don't see the children is because they're out in the natural environment delivering those services in the home or in their community or whatever. So they're on the road. It's hard to go to the center and see action for babies. So anyway, yeah, they do great work.
We go there. My aunt likes to get out of the house and she likes to see people.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah, they're not going to be concentrated there at Lakeshore's facility. You guys are really focused on providing the training and the education in a natural environment.
It's a little more difficult to go with somebody that, you'd have to go with a provider to a home or to the child care. It's a little bit more difficult to take a legislator on a visit to a class. It's not a classroom, and that's sometimes hard for people to understand.
Yeah, I imagine it was. I mean, if everybody was coming to one classroom and there were 7 different therapists and 10 different kids there, I'd be like, yeah, hey, come on in and check this out. But visiting all 7,
is a little different,
yeah, and so it can be tough there. I'd like to do like a broadcast from one of those sessions so a legislator can see it.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be really cool.
We can work that out. Yeah. That'd be
good. Excuse me. I had a question from my grandmother actually. She says, 85. You mentioned that 85% of the development happens before the age of 3, but like she was under the impression that her daughter really hadn't got to that point until she was about 9 years old, for whatever reason that the doctors may have said. So, what would it look like for someone that had a severe intellectual disability and maybe you couldn't assess where she wasn't developing to the 85% as quick? So what does that look like as a plan and supports?
Well, I think the brain still develops 85% of it, whether at the end of the 85% it's a lower cognition level. That's the greatest time to make intervention and make it happen. So it doesn't mean it's going to bring every child up to to school age, or it doesn't mean it's going to have every kid excel in certain things. It just means that is our greatest opportunity to change the brain, to change what's going on. But I still believe, and we try to share, is that really doesn't matter. Because I can remember my own son, they said he would never do anything. They said, take him home and love him. And if I believe what the paper said, he wouldn't have had a great life. So I think our job is to give people like your grandmother hope that it's okay, because we have people here in early intervention, but we have people beyond that in our agency that can help figure it out and make it work.
I imagine that because she is still kind of like I said, I don't think she has a lot of hope there,
Yeah.
but I imagine the things that were available to her, and she's 87, so she was,
Wow, yes,
you know, 33, I believe,
Right.
when she had Bridget, and
Yeah.
so I don't know if
Yeah.
the services were quite as available.
no, they weren't.
And they were in the military, so they were moving around. But I think there's been a lot of leaps
Right.
and bounds in the last 20 to 30 years coming out of the civil rights movement and
Right.
really bridging into that.
Well, early intervention didn't come into full implementation where we were responsible for services till 1995.
Really,
So if you look at that, we're really a relatively new system in looking at everything.
yeah,
And so that is understandable. We've got people that have live in group homes. There are people that live in nursing homes. There are people who didn't have early intervention that might have had an entirely different trajectory if we've been able to support families early and and give them services that they needed to be the best they can be.
yeah. I think it's great that early intervention services there. It makes total sense, and I wish that the state and Washington backed it a lot more.
Yeah, we hope they're going to this year. We have hope.
Yeah.
So I hope so.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to bring up the Facebook page and see if anybody has any comments or questions, and then I'm just going to read them out loud and we can have a conversation about it. So let's check it out here. All right. Vic H. Hargill says, wonderful program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Vic.
Thank you, Vic.
Tammy Moore says she had a little trouble hearing there. Vera Lewis joined the conversation. Sarah Williams, once again, is a little bit low on the microphone. Betsy, maybe. A couple things about the microphone. It's weird because
what you say is much more important than what I say. So
it's funny because it's coming through on my recorder, but for whatever reason there, in the recording, I can just up your mic a little bit, like on the aftermath. I've got it all the way up on the recorder right now, but I'd like to just open it up to the chat here. If anybody has any questions, please, go ahead and type that in, and then I'm going to bring it back to the conversation here. Is there anything that we haven't talked today that you thought was really important and you would like to share?
I guess as a parent, to a now 8-year-old who started out at early intervention, I encourage parents to start early. Um, if you notice that your child has some form of delay, start early, reach out. There are so many services available to children. I mean, early intervention was like a total blessing for my family. So I encourage reaching out to early intervention and seeing what's available. Know that your child can do and be anything that they want to be, regardless of their diagnosis. And also that there's so much support in early intervention. They're truly like family. I mean, I believe you can invite them to dinner and they will stay. So, you have that family connection, and it's really hard to leave at age 3. You don't want to, but they've given you all the tools that you need to continue to grow and for your child to continue to grow and to thrive. So, thank you, early intervention.
thank you. Golly. Wish all our stories had that great outcome. That's our intention, so I hope so.
Mrs. Prince, is there anything that we haven't talked about from your side that you think?
I think Yada said it perfectly. No doubt about it. Personally, when I had a son that had a disability who had all kinds of challenges, and I went to a meeting one day, and it was to go on a camping trip to this very inaccessible place. And the leader of the group, after we had this long meeting and training, he said, "We're going to do whatever it takes." That's what we want to do. We want to do whatever it takes to make you feel supported, to feel capable, to feel, because you got the skills we don't. And so I want that's what I want us to say that we'll do. And we try to do that, but we're limited. We're limited by money. We're limited by a lot of time. We're limited by a lot of things. And so I just want to say that that's what we want to happen. And I'm just thankful that we have Yada to help lead us. We want the voices of families, and sometimes it's hard for us to engage families. Lots of times, for many, all the challenging reasons why you can't get to meetings, you can't get to appointments. I mean, I know all those. I've experienced those, but I think we want to hear from families, and um, I realize not every story's perfect. We want to know how to be better, and so I think we're very open to that in this whole agency, and also in early intervention. So.
So for a family that has just had a son or a daughter that they think might have a delay, what would be their first thing to do? Do they just call your office?
They can call our child find 1-800 number.
And what is that number?
I knew you were going to ask me that. It's 1-800-543-3098.
3098. And then is there a good online website?
Sure, the ADRS website.
Okay, so it would be ADRS, and then you scroll over to the early intervention
Yes,
tab.
yes.
Um,
And also, I think many families will want to talk about that with their healthcare professionals, with their pediatrician, and just share with him or her about their concerns, and tell them they'd like to make a referral. They can do it themselves, or the physician can do it. So, we have a really strong partnership out there, and I want to promote that people are going back to their medical home to share that information.
so there's two parts there. Is the beginning is call in. That would be my first thing. I'd want to speak with somebody on the phone.
Sure.
This is what's going on. Or you can check out the website and speak to your medical doctor who you're working with now, and that may be the first step for a lot of people because they've already got a relationship with that person. But they will know the answers, or they will they will know the process there. And then also, if you are going through, or if you've gone through early intervention, you're always looking for feedback on how to tweak programs, tweak services, stuff like that.
Sure.
What is a good way to give feedback?
Well, I think certainly one of the ways we talked about before is the district councils, the district coordinating councils, because they have trainings, they have different meetings that people can go to and offer, or they can write us, they could call us, they could link to YADA or any of the members on the ICC. That's just a really good way. We try to pull families in to be able to review our information. We don't want to create something and then come back and go, that's not what I needed.
That's not going to work, yeah.
Because we've done that, many providers have done that over the years, so we want to listen to what families, what they need and want, and try to respond to it the best way that we can under our guidelines and also under the funding that we get.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else at this time. Go ahead. Let's scroll through the questions here. We have a question from Janie Gable Curtis. How can us parents who have children that receive services from early intervention help you lobby for more funding? Great question.
Oh, that is a great question. I'm glad that you're interested. Well, we have a fact sheet that's available. I think it's posted online that you can go to, and you can download it, or I can send it to you. You can email me, or you call Child Find. We could get the information out there. Or the best way, if they're receiving services, is to ask their service coordinator to bring them the information, or send it to them electronically, because we've already sent that information out to all of the service providers around the state, and that would be the fastest and best contact. And they would also just ask that you take the information and that you talk to your own local legislator. If you don't know who that is, you can go online, plug in your zip code, and it'll take you right to who your person is. And so I would say a great face-to-face with your child, or certainly a letter or an email, but face-to-face between now and when the first week of March, which is not very far away.
Now, why the first week of March?
That's when the legislature starts. But I think many times, if you can make it face-to-face in your own community, they see disability, they see you, they learn you, they know who you are, and you'll be the go-to. You will.
When they have questions, they'll
reach
back
out to you. Yes, that's exactly right. So I think that's important. Thank you for that question, because it's so important to us. You may have some input on that, Yana.
They love seeing our children, whether it be face to face or in a card or a picture. So any means necessary in this case, because our children need these services. So additional funding would, of course, make those services available, and additional services.
We're just trying to spread the word.
Exactly.
And I think just the importance of what early intervention is, just any kind of early intervention. The earlier we intervene on anything, the better the outcome is going to be.
I agree. So just to kind of summarize there, it would be reach out to one of the seven local districts for your coordinator and ask, hey, I'm thinking about getting in touch with my local legislator. Do you have any information on how to do that?
But the first person they should probably contact is their own service coordinator who's attached to their local program,
Okay.
who's responsible for their plan and their services. She will be, or he will be the one that will be able to get you that quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. And then any effort is a good effort.
For
So
sure.
whether it's a letter, I would definitely recommend in person is the best, but any effort is good effort.
And it doesn't have to end when the legislature comes in session, but it's just an opportunity while they're at home right now to do that. So.
I'd also like to say tomorrow we're broadcasting the legislative boot camp. So
yeah, that's great.
Janie, Curtis, if you would like to tune into that, we'll be live from 9 till 12 tomorrow. So I'm interested to see what they're going to have to say. Really I think they're going to touch on a few of those things as well.
Yeah, we've had some folks attend that, and they're fired up when they get out. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
That's awesome. Okay, well at this point, I'm going to bring this broadcast to a close. I'd like to say thank you, both of you, for being here with me and having this conversation. I really hope that this information reaches the right individuals and we get things.
We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much. And at this point, I am going to click on the stop streaming button and we will be offline from Facebook and